The sweet sound of thunder, right? Well, when it's working, yeah. For most of the summer, that bike did not run. It was something intermittent as well, so very hard to find, very frustrating and expensive for the owner. A little bit more about the bike. It's a 2004 Ultra Glide Classic. Those were the years where Harley Davidson was using the Delphi EFI system. There were no O2 sensors on that bike to confirm what was coming out of the exhaust and being able to rely on that to do the fuel trims. The Delphi system relied heavily on the manifold absolute pressure, and so the MAP sensor was very critical in that design. Not the optimum system, but it worked. In spite of the fact also, to complicate matters, is that that bike has had some modifications. It has a more aggressive cams, and the exhaust system is also modified. There is no Harley Davidson dealer in town. The closest one is 300 miles away. My buddy trailered the bike out there and asked to have the bike put on a dyno, which they did. There was a $700 shop fee for this, and some overnight accommodations, and it took 2 trips, one to bring the bike and one to go pick it back up. So it all adds up quick. When he got the bike back, it ran okay for a couple of days, and then went to its old ways again. So pretty frustrated. My buddy asked me if I'd take a look at the bike. And where do you start with something like that? Like, I don't have access to the dealership scanning equipment. I did have a full shop manual for the bike. That's helpful. And I have an oscilloscope at my disposal. I also had a few cues in that the plugs were black. And this exhaust system has separate pipes, and the pipe from the front cylinder had fuel in it. My first idea was to check out how the ECM was commanding the fuel injectors. The ECM was in the bike, it was connected. I went in the back of the connectors with these acupuncture probes. I was able to get the pin out from the service manual schematics that I had. And whether it's a 2-cylinder motorcycle or a V8, everything works on the same principle in these ECMs. Whether it's the coils or the injectors, the power is always on, and the control is done on the ground side within the ECM. So let me show you this little simplified drawing to make it more clear as to where you try to get your connections. Where these acupuncture probes are, if the switch is open, you would read 12.6 volts. And if the switch is closed, you would read 0 volts. That's the whole principle behind the matter. So using my Handtech 1008, running H-scope and using the automotive module, here's the waveform I was able to gather. So I think this is a picture-perfect waveform. The yellow trace at the top represents the front injector. The green trace is the second channel that represents the rear injector. This is the always-on 12.6 volt that I was talking about. And then when the switching takes place, it's pulled down to 0 volt right here. From the time that the rear injector is commanded to the next time it's commanded, that's 2 revolutions of the engine, 720 degrees. And here is 360 degrees, 1 revolution since the rear injector was commanded. You would think that that's also where the front injector would get its command. But remember, this is a V-twin, and there's 45 degrees of separation between the cylinders. And it actually does get its command 45 degrees later. You always have to be impressed by the accuracy of these oscilloscope waveforms. They are very telling. So everything looks cool here. Now I was really impressed with the quality of that waveform. It came out really nice. The Handtech did a fine job on that. And it showed what you would expect in a properly running engine, this type of waveform. But we knew that intermittently the bike would act up, so I played around with the throttle for a while, and with the benefit of being able to have lengthy recordings with the automotive module within H-scope, I finally found it. And here's the waveform I was able to catch. Wow, what a miss. So the first thing that you notice is that there are multiple strikes of the front injector occurring within one cycle. I'm going to zoom in on this picture so we can get a better look as to the timing. So again, we're looking at 2 revolutions, 720 degrees over here from the start of where the rear injector gets its command to the next time that it does get a command. We would expect the front injector to be commanded right here relative to the rear. Instead, it's getting its command here, a full, say, 35 degrees too soon. The exhaust valve is still open on the front cylinder when this happens. The injector is spraying right into the exhaust stroke, and this would explain why we had fuel in the exhaust. This second injector strike on the front cylinder should not be taking place at all. And worse yet, this line here represents the start of the compression stroke on the front cylinder. That injector strike is actually occurring within the compression stroke. So this is truly messed up. So if we take another look at our simplified schematic, that switch is really a transistor. It's a specialized transistor called a MOSFET, which can handle the amperage. It is what commands the injectors on and off. And the oscilloscope is telling us that the MOSFET on the front injector is defective. So what was my buddy to do here? I pretty much confirmed that he needs a new ECM. Is he to run out and get another stock Harley-Davidson ECM? It probably wouldn't make his bike run very well out of the box. It would need some more dyno time, so there's another trip out of town. I think we should keep in mind also the vintage of the bike. This is a 2004, if you recall. It's 15 years old, this bike, and there's a limit to what you would spend on that. So I recommended to my friend that he take a good look at Thundermax. Thundermax has its own ECM, so it solves a problem of a faulty one. It also would bring the bike up to the latest wide range O2 sensor technology. It would allow us to monitor sensors that are very difficult to access without taking half the bike apart to do bench testing and so forth. You get real-time monitoring of these sensors with the T-Max being hooked up to your laptop. We had to remove the exhaust and drill holes and weld 18mm threaded bungs to accept the wide range O2 sensors. That's all part of the game. It has auto map feature, and the road is your dyno. And you start off with a base map, and as you ride, lists of offsets are automatically created by Thundermax. And at your discretion, you're able to merge the offsets to the base map, which therefore creates a brand new base map. You wipe the offsets clean and you ride some more. You repeat that process 2 to 3 times and you've built a pretty solid fuel map for the bike without the need of going out of town and putting the bike on a dyno. And instead of getting just a couple of hours worth of dyno time, each hour you ride is dyno time. So now the bike runs fine, and as we speak my buddy's out there riding and creating a fuel map for the bike. It's all good.